If you're in a job that looks great on paper, but just doesn't light you up in the way that it once did, you are not alone. I'm Chloe Temple, a leadership coach who spent the last 5 years helping leaders like you find clarity, confidence, and purpose without walking away from the security of a 9-to-5. Welcome to The Leader That Lasts, a podcast for ambitious professionals who want more than just making it through the week. Each episode, I'll share real stories, honest mistakes, and practical tools to help you find fulfillment wherever you are. Because staying doesn't have to mean settling. You don't need to leave, you need to lead. Let's dive in. When Nat, my only full-time team member, told me that she was leaving, it's not too dramatic to say that I completely and utterly broke down. You might have experienced it yourself when someone hands their resignation in and suddenly you realise that you're going to have to, at least for a certain period of time, you're going to have to double hat. Now, for me in that moment, I couldn't see how possibly I could run this business without her. And understandably, I had a huge reaction, not in front of her, but behind the scenes. I 100% want the best for her, and it's all for good reasons, and she is amazing. But the reality is I had built this business that was so complex that even the thought of trying to bring on someone else and explain to them the many, many different products that we had and the ways of working, I just couldn't see how I could explain it. I'm going to caveat this whole episode with the underlying belief that is probably my most supportive or empowering belief, which is life is happening for me, not to me. Life is happening for me. I truly believe all of the challenges that we experience, the unexpected frustrations, the things that come up that we really don't want to be happening, like this, I truly believe that they are gifts in disguise. We just can't necessarily, in the moment when we're experiencing, can't see the gift yet. But I believe that I will be able to see why and how this is a gift. In fact, I already see how this is a gift, and you'll see why in a moment. Often the worst things that happen to us are often happening for us. We just can't see it. So the reality is, and why I've titled this episode, why it's forced me to rebuild my entire business, because it's given me pause. It's given me an opportunity to really look and say, why have I made this so complicated? I mean, we do so many different things for so many different people. And part of that has been trying very much to please many, many different types of clients, different people. We do so many different workshops and speaking things and coaching and 360s and team accelerator programs and offsites. Like, it is actually quite complicated, the number of products, and therefore it actually makes selling quite difficult, because someone coming to us is basically faced with the paradox of choice. We could do this or this or this or this, and then they're like, oh, hang on a minute, there's a lot there to digest. Equally, when I'd introduce myself and what we do, I often didn't have a really clear answer on exactly what it was, because it looked different to different people. And that's not saying or any disrespect to the quality of what we do, but it probably could be better if we were a little bit more focused. Let's be honest, right? Then when you put Nat leaving in the mix and going back to trying to do all of that on my own, all the delivery plus everything else that Nat supported me with, it just became unsustainable. So I obviously know I need help. And my initial reaction was, and brief to Nat in her last 3 months, was find someone amazing, train them up, and we'll continue on as we had before, just with someone new. But then when I actually sat down and gave myself a bit of space to think about it, I reflected on whether or not that actually was the most strategic choice, whether or not this was, and the gift of her resigning was actually an opportunity for me to step back and look at the business and say, right, Chloe, you've overcomplicated this whole thing. How do you take it back to basics? What do you really want to do? Now, there's going to be an episode on the podcast that's all about strategically designing your life and career. Now, that was a process that I built 7 years ago, but through this whole time, I've actually redone that exercise with myself to really get clear on, again, who am I? What do I look like at my best? What do I truly want? And with that understanding, how am I going to get there? And it spat out different answers than the path that we were on. Now, that has been difficult. It's been exciting but difficult, because in November, we will come up to 5 years since I applied for my first ABN. So submitted the application for the business, set up the business. Long story short, that was when I was in Australia. Ended up having to shut that down because I realised I was not legally allowed to have a business and be on the visa that I was on. Shut that down. So I actually waited and then started it here. But essentially, it will have been 5 years from the origin of the idea. I'm not going to lie, it is difficult not to feel like a bit of a failure being at this point and knowing that there have been so many failures, a graveyard of attempts to get this right. And I use right in inverted commas because I do, again, another empowering belief that I have is that nothing is actually wasted. It's really hard to really believe that, but because sometimes it feels like wasted time. But if I am learning from the mistakes of the past, then it's not truly a failure. I am learning from the experience. So when I will ask that question of what did I really want? What do I really want from the business? Letting go of external advice, letting go of the countless failures that have existed, I realized that the answer was to pause. Not to immediately react, not to immediately jump and replace that with like for like. Not to continue on pretending that it wasn't overcomplicated. Not to let past failures and past experiences impact how I make the choice of what's next. To really ground in the belief that what we are creating, what I am creating here, gets to be aligned, gets to be and meet the vision that I have for the impact that I want to make, which is empowering leadership at every level. Leadership is not a title, it is a choice, and it is a choice that every single one of us gets to make every day. In this moment right now, I can choose to be what I call a manager at masks, and I'll dive way more into that in detail in future episodes, but I can choose to cope with this situation or to lead through it. And the answer I've come to is, and I'm not going to do any spoilers about what is eventuating from this because I am so excited. And this podcast is a huge part of expressing that and giving myself permission to live my why, which is to spark change by simply being our true selves. This is a space where I want to be honest and share the vulnerability of entrepreneurship and the pain that's involved of feeling like you have failed or feeling like you're wasting time or not moving as fast as you might like towards what you want, and doubting yourself, and replacing that with an opportunity to really embed the beliefs that I have of other people into myself of what is possible. Because, as Brené Brown says, a leader is anyone who takes responsibility for finding potential in people and processes and who has the courage to develop that potential. Well, I see that potential. I see that potential in you. I see that potential around me, in the world around me. I also see it in myself. I see it in this business. And I choose to lean into courage in order to develop that. The easiest thing for me to do would to run from this situation. And running could simply just mean finding or replacing that with a new nap. But in doing so, I would have missed the opportunity to get clear and recreate what this gets to look like. The support that I really need to fulfill the vision that I have, to create something so powerful, so effective, so transformational for individuals, and to give me a space to be able to do that too. If this experience has taught me one thing, it's the power of beliefs and the real value in believing in yourself. Over the past 5 years, I've spent more than 100 grand. Oh my God, you're probably running for the hills. 100 grand on personal development programs and business programs and accelerator programs, essentially outsourcing my agency, leaning on and looking for external advice and other people to answer the problems of why I felt like so many of the things that I had tried have not been financially viable enough to be effective, have not translated in the way that I had hoped, when on paper it looks like I'm doing all the right things. And I'm not, as I'm saying all of this, I'm realizing it's sounding like my business is a complete flop. It's not. It's just we have tried a lot of things in the past that have not worked. And actually part of the mission of this podcast is to normalize failure. And as a recovering perfectionist, that's really difficult to do, because when things don't work, when things don't go our way, it's hard to see that that is not us. If we go back to belief, I had stopped believing in my own internal guidance system and my own ability to know what was right or wrong, or what to focus on, or what to let go of and what not to. I had so many different people telling me, yeah, do this, and you need to, you need to have a YouTube channel, and you need to show your face, and you need to be on video. And this podcast is a bit of an act of rebellion against all of that, because I'm sat here in my pajamas. And if I had to record this on video, I would not have, because I'd have needed to do my hair and then my makeup and get my lighting sorted and all those good things. So I'm not going to tell you what's next for the business, because I don't want to spoil the launch, but I hope you can hear it from my voice. I am so excited because it feels like it finally aligns with me. I'm so proud of what I get to create and how I get to show up in it. My hope is that this podcast forms part of that, a space to be vulnerable, to be honest, to, of course, share tips, tools, strategies, but also real behind the scenes reality, that leadership is not easy. But I choose to stay. My hope is that this both inspires you and supports you to do something similar, because I tell you, entrepreneurship is not all the fun, freedom and fulfillment that it appears in an Instagram reality. The reason we are still here 5 years in, when approximately 50% of businesses don't make it to year 5, the reason I'm still here standing is because I've never lost sight of why. And if anything, I've become even more grounded to that. This podcast is for the leader in you. I don't care if you're a CEO. I don't care if you're a parent, a graduate. A leader is not the one who has the title. They are the individual who chooses courage over comfort. I hope you'll come on this journey with me. Please do reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I want to make this a 2-way conversation, not a 1-way. So please, if something resonates from this episode or a future episode, I would love to hear it. And I look forward to sharing what the future brings. See you next time. Fulfillment, impact, and a life that you actually want to jump out of bed for, even on a Monday. By listening to this episode, I hope you are one step closer to creating that and becoming a leader that lasts. Now, I want to hear from you. Pop me a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram and let me know what landed. And if you are the kind of kind-hearted leader who's willing to help me out in a big way, take a minute to rate and review the podcast. Send me a screenshot and I'll send you a juicy freebie as a big thank you. Until next time, lead, don't leave, and I'll see you in the next one.